God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Finley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
He always does.
My name is Tom Catt, and I am joined by my fabulous, bubbly, effervescent, delicious co-star, Toni Homeperm.
I feel like a confection. When
You are a confection.
introduce me like that.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Today, we are discussing Walter's 50th birthday.
Yes.
And it originally aired on January 23rd, 1973. We actually just found out today that was Tuesdays. That I think NBC or CBS aired Maude on Tuesdays.
Yes.
Just potpourri for you.
Yes.
Just potpourri for you. Some of the guests, there's only one real guest star.
Yes.
His name is Floyd Crowley, who's played by John Heffernan.
Mm-hmm.
So the episode opens on a real high note, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness, yeah. It was another one of those where it's like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to those unfamiliar with the musical Showboat, there is a song called Old Man River.
Oh, I better not. I was about to, but no.
Just, do the Ashley Simpson thing, that's all.
Oh, yes.
Just have the record playing in the background and have it be an Ashley Simpson song. Really full circle moment for the girl.
Absolutely.
So it starts with Florida, prepping for the party because obviously it's Walter's 50th and Maude did this really big, beautiful spread.
And Florida's hanging the banner.
Florida's helping hang the banner. Singing.
Happy 50th.
That says Walter, that says Happy 50th for Walter.
Yes.
And while Florida is doing that, she is singing the original opening to Old Man River, which is, oh my God, I'm trying to remember, because every time I hear Old Man River, I just have this visceral reaction.
The singing darkies.
Yeah, darkies all work on the Mississippi.
On the Mississippi, yes.
What was it? Darkies all work on the Mississippi. Darkies all work while the white folks play.
Yes.
That was the, I think...
We're only quoting
the song. We're quoting the lyrics.
As they were originally written to point out the
obvious problematic... The obvious problematic terminology used in that song.
Yes. And even for 72... Well, no.
73.
73 now.
Early 73.
73 now. It was shocking. And Maude comes down.
Was...
And she's shocked.
Aghast!
Is singing this. Yes.
And she says, "No, everything has changed.
It's all
now.
changed.
It's all changed. We don't use those words.
New lyrics.
And Florida, in her infinite witty, sarcastic way, says, "Oh, okay. Colored folks work on the Mississippi." And again, Maude just stops her, again aghast with what Florida is saying. And she says, "No, it's here we all work on the Mississippi. Here we all work while the straw boss plays." Right. And Florida delivers what a witty line, saying, "Yeah, but you're still playing, and we're still working."
True.
And it's it's a very true. It's a very true depiction. A very true depiction of what's going on. Even today, which again is one of the reasons why we're doing the show in the first place.
Hello.
But yeah, so after that moment comes, Carol enters and mentions how the banner sags a little bit in the middle.
Which Maude points out. Well, so does
Walter.
Yes. And now Carol then brings up a point. I think she was looking for the silverware. And Maude said that when she divorced Albert, he got the silverware.
Yes. Which, it's funny, because in later episodes we learned that Albert and Maude only had a 7-month marriage. Where I think the first 3 months they shared a bed, and then in the last 4 months, Maude had him sleep on the sofa. And just, a Kardashian before her time.
Yes.
Little did we know, in fact.
So Albert got the silver in the divorce, and just out of spite, Maude
got the power tools.
Yes.
And she even said, "Oh, spite is a terrible thing." What else happened?
Well, they're talking about the party favors, that Walter is in a funk, And Maude starts telling them how there's something comes up about, I think it was the phone, right? That they find out that Mr. Crowley is going to be landing in LaGuardia.
Yes.
And it turns out that Mr. Crowley is Walter's
oldest friend
from Peoria, right?
Yes, Floyd is Walter's oldest friend from Peoria, yes. And then Maude goes on this, not so much a little tirade, but she's primping around and preening like a peacock.
Yes.
Like, a woman has to be pretty tip-top in order to make a birthday like this, or bring a surprise to Walter, to her husband like this. Yes. And Florida quips back at her saying, if a woman's been married as many times as you, she's not pro. I mean, she's
an old pro.
She's made all pro.
Yeah. Old pro or all pro?
All pro.
All pro.
All pro.
All pro.
She's made all pro.
She's made all pro. And then that's when I think Maude pulls out, she has a picture of...
A snapshot of
Walter.
Of Floyd and Walter together.
Yes, that she had blown up.
That she had blown up when they were, I think, 11.
Right.
I think they were 11 years old.
And was it Florida or Carol who was asking which one was Walter?
I think it was Carol was asking which one was Florida.
And
which one was
Walter?
Which one was Walter?
And I think Maude commented that he was the one
with the runny nose.
The
one with the runny nose.
And she's looking like she's gazing lovingly at the picture, she always wanted a little boy.
And now she does. And he's 50 years old.
50 years old.
There was one joke that caught me that tickled my funny bone. It really did. And it was about mentioning Walter's age and how, for God's sake, I had it written down and everything. All the young girls at the schoolyard are teachers.
Yes.
Which is a bitter realization. And, that's something that was mentioned even in the Ticket episode, where, like, Maude mentioned all the cops at one point were older than me, and then suddenly they were all younger.
Right.
So it's very interesting how they talk about age and death in this series. Mm-hmm. Because they... I don't know how they handle death in shows like Mary Tyler Moore or The Honeymooners or Dick Van Dyke.
They didn't really
touch on it.
The only thing I remember about death in Mary Tyler Moore was it was the clown character died.
Yeah,
and I remember just vaguely about that episode, and it was something about the
they talk about death pretty liberally, and I think Maude and even All in the Family they discussed it.
Yeah. Well, especially in All in the Family.
Yeah, they had to deal with Edith. Edith and who else?
Beverly Leslie, the drag queen crossdresser character that was friends with Edith.
Yeah,
and I mean, if you even today when you watch that. It's very emotionally upsetting that Edith's friend Beverly Leslie, who was this drag queen / crossdresser, got killed, was gay bashed before he was even gay bashing.
Before gay bashing was even a thing, or what was it? Queer panic. Was it before queer panic?
Yeah, way before that even. Yeah,
because I mean that's an excuse that was I think just abolished recently.
Yeah,
where I think it was trans panic, where if you where just that type of I guess queer bashing that would be it became abolished recently.
Yeah,
I think it's still you could still use that as an excuse in the typical Bible Belt states.
Yeah, like Tennessee or Kentucky,
Tennessee, Mississippi, Kentucky.
Those places I have.
Arkansas.
No desire whatsoever to visit.
Absolutely not.
No, thank you.
They'll lynch us with our feather boas.
Yeah, really.
This took a morbid turn, didn't it?
I know. I heard you can't even get waterproof eyeliner down there. Scandal.
How dare.
I know. So, anyway.
The episode continues, we digress.
The episode continues as we digress. So now I think that pretty much summed up that scene. And
that summed up the first scene pretty nicely.
And that's when we segue to the bar.
Yes, the bar where Arthur and Walter are sitting down, and I think Walter and the bartender are singing "Happy 50th Birthday" to him. Mm-hmm. And just because this is about the 50th, how do you feel about getting older?
It doesn't really bother me.
Okay. Bothers the hell out of me.
Does it?
Uh-huh. Oh. I never liked getting old. As a matter of fact, I was having a conversation with my partner recently, And his birthday was just this past weekend, or this past week, I should say. And periodically he'll mention when we're hanging out, I am such and such years old, and I'm like, yes, and congratulations, you made it.
Right.
Like, it's at one point, for me personally, I've reached an age where I just don't care about getting older. At one point, I just did not like it at all. Like, as soon as I reached a certain age, I'm like, all right, when I reach 40, fine. When I reach 50, I'll celebrate. When I reach 60, I'll celebrate. But the ages between, it's like, I made it that far.
Yeah, I don't really, like, I don't know. I just, birthdays have never been a big thing for me anyway.
I'm also incredibly vain.
So, same.
No, but it's true. Aging is it's part of aging is part of life. Gravity will take its toll.
However, in the especially in the gay male community,
oh Jesus,
aging
Christmas.
is a horrendous thing.
As soon as you turn 30, you're a daddy. I
mean,
I was even called daddy when I was in my 20s.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
I think I was 22 the first time I was called daddy. And I'm like, excuse me? Who are you talking to?
I'm daddy.
I mean, but also at that time I was very tall and I was very hairy, so I was a bear by community standards.
Definition,
By definition, I was a bear.
Yes.
So it lent itself to that.
Right.
But it just, oh.
Yes, but you would think, in the gay community, unless you're like in your 20s, fair
complexioned, abs for days,
that like basically you have no right to exist, and really most gay men don't fit into that.
Not at all.
Anyway,
Not at all.
It's just
unless they do porn.
Yeah.
And even then, that's a question mark.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of stigma within the gay community of getting older.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll see so many queens who have had plastic surgery. You'll see so many individuals, and I'm not bashing anybody for freshening themselves up. It's just it's become a part of the community.
Yes.
If you feel a certain way about yourself and you want to change something about yourself, you're going to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
But it is upsetting that we do have this sort of microscope over ourselves where it's like, if you enter a room, you're already going to be penalized for just existing differently than what is considered normal or what is considered conventionally attractive.
Very true.
And that's why the two of us have such panache and character, because we're above that.
Absolutely.
But it is true, and it is unfortunate that we have to sort of deal with that. Deal with that reality.
It is what it is.
That's such an interesting expression. Yeah. At some point, I do want to embroider that over my ass on some dress, on some type of dress that I'm wearing. I don't know if it'll be something sophisticated or something trashy, but I just want that. It is what it is right above my ass crack.
It is what it is.
Such a jaded, cynical term. A jaded, cynical phrase.
Yes.
So, Arthur and Walter are in the bar discussing getting old.
Yes, and Walter actually brought up Floyd.
Yes.
And Walter's basically lamenting about his lost youth, really, is what the gist of the conversation is.
I mean, that actually brings up a very interesting question. Have you ever made and this was something that was addressed. Walter asked Arthur if he had ever made a list of accomplishments that he wanted to achieve before reaching a certain age. And I feel like that's becoming less and less a thing now. Because we're reaching, even during the 90s, we were reaching a point where it didn't matter how old you were.
Right.
You could still achieve greatness and success even after the age of 50, even after the age of 60. But have you ever made a list for yourself?
Never made a list, no.
Neither have I.
No, I've never made like an actual list. But, one of the things that I'd always wanted to do was do drag.
Yeah.
And I didn't even start till I was, how old was I?
Much older.
52.
Okay.
When I started. And I say to people, you know what? You're never too old to start doing anything you want to do.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a proponent of that.
You know, you want to become a painter in your in your 50s, 60s. Just start painting.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, you just have to do it.
Yeah, that's more. Yes, that's. I couldn't have said it better myself, honestly.
You know, if you want to do something, you know, it doesn't. You're not going to get anywhere if you just think, oh, I'd like to do it.
If you keep on asking the question, or if you keep on making excuses.
Yeah,
for
but
yourself.
I'm too old. It's like, no, you know what, look at Grandma Moses. Speaking about painters, I mean, she didn't start painting until she was, in her I think in her 80s.
I think it was her 80s.
I think it was her 80s.
I'm pretty sure it was her 80s.
And became a famous painter.
This past year, I pretty much dove headlong into voiceover work.
Right.
And I had reached a certain age for myself personally, not so much that I am older, but I reached a point where I'm like, something, I've always wanted to do this, so I'm going to, siphon away a little bit of money to say I'm going to put this towards this end goal.
Right.
And, all through my 20s, I was very frivolous. I was very devil-may-care. I didn't give a flying fig what my grades were in college. I dropped out of college. Then I did vocational school, and I graduated valedictorian from a organization, we'll say. And I did practically nothing with it. And, you accrue that sort of debt, and it weighs heavily on my mind, but... when the pandemic happened and I was furloughed and then I was surreptitiously let go, it just sort of lent itself to this idea that finally, just you have the time, you have the money, you have the patience, put it out there and see what happens.
Exactly.
And a year later, I can successfully say that I am represented by 2 agencies that delve in voiceover work. Right, I still want to do drag and I still want to do cosplay, which is what I'm known for. But I'm lending myself to these other avenues, and it's true. You never are too old to start living your life.
No, never.
And that was a big thing during the 90s. It's like, oh, my life started at 30. My life started at 40. My life started at 50. Well, what were you doing before that?
They weren't living.
They weren't living.
They weren't living, I guess.
But this episode does lend itself to the idea that you're never too old to start. What was the end quote? You are still living if you still find something worth looking for, or something worth seeking.
Something to seek, yeah.
Something to seek.
Yeah.
And, that's very important. Never stop learning. Never stop trying to seek out what it is that you want out of life. And just continue to pursue it.
Yes.
Go get 'em!
Yes. Absolutely.
So, they're waxing sentimental.
Walter's talking about the skin on his knuckles.
The skin on his knuckles. Oh... This actually, who was it? I think Walter asked Arthur if there were any celebrities that he wanted to make love to.
Right. Or
any celebrities that he had made love to.
Yes.
Who's yours?
Oh, celebrity? I would, So, like, this is like, like on Friends, like they had the list.
Yeah, they have a list.
It's like, and I think, who was it? Ross. Who was the actress?
I have no idea.
I can't remember.
I'm sure somebody will know.
I can't remember that. She's Isabella Rossellini.
Okay,
she was on his list, but she was like somewhere in the middle.
And she's a handsome woman.
Yes, and and he she happened to come into the coffee shop, and he's like, oh, you're on my list, and she's like, well, let me see the list, and she was, she's only like, about 5th or 6th down on the list, so she was quite insulted.
I mean, in Death Becomes Her, she was a beautiful actress.
Yes.
I mean, if you see pictures of her today, she's definitely aged. I don't want to say she's unattractive, but she's aged into herself.
Yes. But now, of course, she is not my celebrity
I don't think she would be.
She is not on my list. But I would say for me, Matt Bomer.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Not my type.
Cheyenne Jackson is another one.
All right, so just generically attractive white actor.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that's it for you in the good times department.
Sorry.
I mean...
That does it for me.
I mean, for me, Idris Elba.
Oh, yes, he's very attractive.
Idris Elba is one. Chris Evans, but I mean, who wouldn't? Trying to think of who else. Guillermo from What They Do in the Shadows. What They Do in the Shadows.
I've seen that, but I don't remember.
He's the short, pudgy Spanish actor.
I'd have to look.
Oh, I don't know what it was, but when I first started watching it and I saw him smile with those dimples, I was just like, oh my God, he is edible. Oh my Lord. He is edible. I like to think I don't have a type. Uh-huh. I don't like to think I have a type. But I mean, if you looked at my partner, you'd be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Because my partner is a little bit shorter than I am.
Well, most people you're going to be with are going to be shorter than you.
To those unfamiliar, I am 6'4" in my stocking feet.
So let's face it, that's probably going to be a prerequisite.
Unfortunately.
For me, they're always going to be taller. Because I am only 5'2" in my stocking feet. So, unless I'm going, to the Yellow Brick Road, there's very little chance that I would be with somebody shorter than me.
What do you have, Hervé Villachet, stuck in your pillowcase upstairs?
The plan. Oh, God. What show is this, anyway?
I have no idea what your show is anymore.
Hey,
there's nothing wrong with discussing these things while also mentioning with also mentioning the show. And I mean, hey, the questions posed in this show definitely can resonate within our conversations as they come.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. So again, they're continuing to wax sentimental.
And they're talking about what Walter, like his list, what he wished he'd accomplished. Like
he wanted to be a pilot.
A glider pilot.
Live in Paris for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started talking about Tommy Hollander.
Yes, because apparently Walter was playing golf against
Walter
him.
Was the way that I read into it was that they were going to be at a boxing match together.
No, it was golf. It was golf.
But they did mention golf. That,
yes. Yes, because Walter was saying he had to beat him.
Yeah,
because it was a cheating SOB and
all these negative names. Negative, Tommy Hollander.
And then Arthur tells him, "Oh, you can't play him this weekend. He died, and it turns out he died at the 14th hole."
At the age of 48.
48.
Of a heart attack.
Heart attack. Just dropped dead.
And it's interesting because Walter was mentioning how he had a clean bill of health, EKG, blood work, all that stuff. And then Arthur was just very lackadaisical about it. Like, oh, well, que sera, sera.
Yeah.
And, as someone who recently this year went through the blood work and the EKG and the cardiologist and the heart monitor and all that fun stuff, it terrifies me.
Oh, sure.
It absolutely terrifies me because I'm like, if it could happen to a fictional character on a TV show, it could most assuredly happen to me.
Yes.
And, it's interesting. I mean, granted, there has been leaps and bounds made in the medical field where, things like that would be caught very early. But, there was something recently within the last couple of years, that I read. Kevin Smith. Are you familiar with him? Kevin Smith had a severe. He didn't have a severe heart attack, but he had a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And when they checked his arteries and whatnot, they almost found, I think, one artery was about 100% blocked, and they called it the Widowmaker.
Oh yes, I've heard that term.
And again, terrifying. Yeah. Because you never know.
Right.
And there's only so many tests that can be done. Mm-hmm. So, always get checked up by your doctor if you possibly can.
If you can.
If you can.
We won't.
soon there will be an episode where we will be addressing the medical profession.
Yes.
And the episode is literally called Maude and the Medical Profession.
Mm-hmm. We have a lot to discuss about that.
Oh, Lord Almighty, do we ever.
Oh, my goodness.
So, Arthur, again, very lackadaisical about Tommy Hollander dying. And then Walter just, on a dime, there's that shift where it's like, oh, that dear, sweet Tommy Hollander.
Right.
And just going on and on about how Tommy was such a great guy.
Such a great guy. Now that he's dead.
Now that he's dead, of course.
He's
You know, we always respect the dead in this house, apparently.
Mm-hmm. And also Walter, then he talks about Floyd again, and he mentions the act.
The vaudeville act.
Yes, that was one of the things.
That was one of the things that Walter...
on his list was to have a vaudeville act.
Yeah.
And him and Floyd, when they were kids...
They created... When they were 12 years old, they created this act of them singing... them performing the old spinning wheel in the parlor.
Yes, spinning wheel in the parlor.
And they did like the
hand gestures.
The hand gestures, like there's an old
man
with a beard spinning wheel in the parlor. And we're doing these things. You can't see what we're doing. But very vaudeville. Like very shticky like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was pretty much it for the
that
ball.
that was it. Arthur said, "Oh, I'll see you at the party, God willing."
Yes.
And it's important to mention God willing because that's how Walter's introduced in the following scene.
Mm-hmm.
And as Arthur leaves, Walter very somberly, very melancholy, just performs the rest of the number.
The number, yes.
And at that point, that's when we cut to commercial break.
Yes. And when we come back, we're back at the house.
Yep.
Maude is she was in a beautiful bright orange,
beautiful
outfit.
orange dress.
I
want to recreate that.
I really do.
And the beautiful like palazzo pleated pants.
Mm-hmm.
I just that is one outfit that I would love to wear.
Yes. Carol was in blue. I guess they had to make her complimentary.
Yeah.
To Maude.
Definitely.
And Florida got Walter a gift. And Maude has to start making a
big thing about it, saying, "Oh, thank you for." Oh my God, I wish I had written it down. But she mentioned something about the tension between the races.
Yeah, just being
she had to make it racial.
Tension
she had to make it racial.
Florida getting a little gift for Walter, and Florida's like, if
don't. I have it written down.
Don't
make me regret my generous impulse.
Exactly. It's like it's like I can understand it because Florida's like, yeah, just give you a little gift. What do you have to make it all about? This thing about racial inequality and all this, and it's like. It's like there's a time.
It reaches
a
point where even Florida was like, "Maude."
She was like, "Enough,
Not enough,
really enough." She got. It's like I got the little gift.
Even Maude afterwards says, "I thought that was going to be one of my better statements." Maude, we get it.
Yes,
we definitely get it.
Yes,
but that also plays Maude's white guilt.
Her white guilt
is mentioned a number of times in the series.
Mm-hmm.
And as, because Maude is such a liberally minded person, she's so liberal where sometimes it's almost like her views are just touching the conservative surface.
Yes.
Which happens more often than we like to think.
Absolutely. So the doorbell rings and they all think
it's Floyd prowling. And it is not.
It is not.
It is Walter.
Who's depressed.
Very depressed. Almost melodramatically depressed.
Yes. Walter was acting more like Maude in this.
Very much so.
Very
much so.
until the end.
Until the very end. Yes.
But Walter was acting very much the way Maude
melodramatic,
would be
very
acting.
over the top.
Yes, all over the top and all.
But still very Walter.
Yes,
like it wasn't like Walter imbued himself with Maude. It was it was Bill Macy playing Walter depressed.
Correct. And he's talking about that he's
tight in the chest. And of course, Maude says, "Walter, you are not having gas on your 50th birthday."
Exactly. Gas is not allowed. And so she takes him over. She's
sit with mommy.
Sit with mommy. She's got to be, mommy to him. And then she goes into quoting Browning.
With a quote of Browning, which, "Grow old with me, the best is yet to be."
Yes.
And, again, Maude is now the Walter, trying to reason with Walter, trying to like make sense of all of this stuff, and Walter is not having it.
No, he's still bringing up the skin on his knuckles.
Yep.
And his chicken neck.
Yes. And Maude is like, please, don't stop wallowing. Stop wallowing, which is very out of character, because if there's one thing Maude is good at, it's wallowing in her own self-pity.
Exactly, which is why I said Walter was acting more like Maude than Maude in this episode. And Walter,
I think at that point...
He tells her that, something about her hot flashes that...
Yes. Because Walter had to sit through Maude's hot flashes.
Yes, he had to deal with that, so she's basically got to, deal with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's when...
Maude puts the birthday cap on him.
Yes.
And snaps the band under his... Have you ever had that happen to you?
Yes.
Oh, it hurts.
It hurts.
It hurts a lot, man.
Burns.
Especially if you're shaven.
Oh.
Do not recommend.
Carol and Florida come in from the kitchen, I believe.
Yes.
And now Maude, she's trying to cheer him up.
Cheer him up, saying, like, there's a big surprise for you.
Yes. Yes.
And Walter's like, well, wait, what are you talking about? And then at that point, I think that's when the doorbell
rang.
And then Maude, Carol, and Florida all race into the kitchen.
Maude tells Walter, you just yell, come in. So, which he does.
And Floyd enters.
Yes.
And Floyd's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was looking for Walter Findlay. And they both have this moment where it's like, because they haven't seen each other for 30 years.
30?
I think it was 30 years.
Yeah.
About 30 years. That was on the phone call to Mr. Sherry the following day.
Right. So they don't recognize each other at first.
Yep. And then they do recognize each other, and they have this back and forth of like, Walter, Floyd, Walter, Floyd. And then I think
Walter is ecstatic.
Walter's overjoyed.
Yeah.
Overjoyed. And Floyd starts doing There's an Old
song,
Spinning Wheel in the Parlor.
Yes.
And just again, Walter overjoyed, incredibly happy to see him. Floyd says, oh, Walter, I'm so happy I could die.
I'm so excited.
I
could die. At which
his
face goes blank.
Yep.
And he did.
Yep.
He died.
He croaked.
He
bought the farm.
He just...
Keeled over.
And
Walter does his best impersonation of Kevin McAllister from Home Alone, holding his face in utter shock.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, that's when
we have another
black,
break.
And we open to the next scene.
Yeah. So now Maude is on the phone with someone in Peoria.
Yep, Mr. Sherry.
Oh, that was Mr. Sherry?
That was Mr. Sherry.
And they're talking about the funeral arrangements.
VFW.
That they made.
What is VFW?
Veterans of Foreign War.
That's right, because they went... Well, if they went to war together, then how have they haven't seen each other?
Well, it's just that's where they were having, I guess, you can rent those places out. You don't have to be... You don't have to be,
you don't have to be a military veteran.
No.
Okay.
No.
I did not know that.
Yes, because like when I was with the Gay Men's Chorus, a lot of times we did shows at the VFW in Sayville.
Oh, that's marvelous.
Yeah, they have their like their veteran
their services
things and events, but also you can actually just rent it out like a hall.
I did not know that. You learn something new every day.
But it sounded to me like, because Maude, you hear talking about that, he didn't really have any family.
Yes.
So I guess,
Floyd did not have any family, no siblings, no family. So.
Right. So I guess it was like friends and neighbors were just, picking up.
Yeah.
Making arrangements for him at the VFW in Peoria.
Unfortunately, Mr. Crowley got to Peoria, but his luggage was lost.
His luggage was lost.
His luggage was lost.
It was a shame, really.
Very sad.
Yes.
Just terrible.
And also we find out it's now 3 days later.
Yes.
It's 3 days when we made that break.
3 days
have passed since Floyd.
Since Floyd passed.
Yes, and
Walter has not been seen or spoken to.
He's just been staring at the wall.
Yep.
He's wallowing in self-pity,
drowning in self-pity.
And Maude is telling all this to Carol.
All this to Carol, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carol stops Maude as Maude continues because Walter is coming
Coming
downstairs.
down, yes.
And he's in his robe, and he's in his pajama pants.
Yes.
Very solemn, very melancholy.
One says he looks like the
Ghost of Christmas Past.
And he's calling for Phillip.
Yes. Calling for Phillip.
Yes.
Now, okay. I love the jokes between Phillip and Walter.
Uh-huh.
It literally just tickles my funny bone because it really is man talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so Maude is saying, Walter, you haven't spoken to me in days,
Mm-hmm.
and Walter is just Phillip. Phillip.
He has to.
He has to talk to Phillip. It is dire straits at this
Imperative.
point. He has to talk to Phillip.
Imperative.
So Carol says he's outside playing.
Right.
And Walter opens the front door, calls out to Phillip, and Maude again is just like, hello?
I know.
I'm right here.
What's going on? Why does he need to talk to Phillip?
So Phillip comes in, and Walter turns to the girls and says, Phillip, I have to talk to Phillip.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think they left. Did they leave, or were they like in the background?
I'm not even sure.
I'm pretty sure they were in the background.
Probably in the background.
So Walter takes Phillip aside, and they sit down on the sofa.
Mm-hmm. He's asking, what were you doing at 6:00 this morning? I think, right? And he said, Phillip says, and we actually, get a little dialogue out of Phillip.
Yes, we actually hear Brian. I think his name is Brian Morrison. Brian Morrison. Yes.
And he says he was in the bathroom.
He was in the bathroom.
Yes. So Walter has to have that's when Walter has to give him his little talk.
And
about
it's
the thin walls.
The walls are thin at 6:30, and everybody's asleep, and everything's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, if there's one thing you can do in this life, try for the side of the bowl, not
aim
the
for
center.
the side of the bowl, not the water.
And he says to Phillip, repeat after me.
Yes.
When waters fall on water, it makes a sound that all can hear. But when it falls on porcelain, it falls silent to the ear. Which just tickled my funny bone so much. He had another conversation like that about zipping your fly.
Uh-huh.
And it's like having that conversation. I never had a conversation like that with my father.
Oh, hell no.
I would not be able to handle it.
No.
But just that type of conversation, I don't know why it tickled me so much.
It just did.
It just did.
It just did.
So
So that's when Maude and Carol... Okay, so I guess they did go off.
They did go off into the back, and then
now
they
came back in. And Maude, she's had it. She wants to have it out with
Maude
Walter.
had it, but Carol asked, is there anything I can do for you?
Yes.
And Walter says, just don't waste your life.
Yes.
And, it's interesting to see a 50-year-old in 1973 compared to a 50-year-old in 2021.
Yeah.
Look at J-Lo.
I know.
J-Lo is 50. She looks like she is 25.
They just recently had a picture, because now apparently she's gotten back together
With Ben Affleck.
And they had a picture that was similar to one that they had taken almost 20 years ago.
Where she has not aged.
Yeah, like she was in a bikini laying on the boat. And, he's aged, but not badly.
No, he hasn't aged poorly.
Not
he's
really.
He's still a very good looking
But he has gotten older. And but to look at her, you would think she was, hardly aged at all.
I have no idea who her specialist is, but I want their number.
Speaking of men aging, it was funny. David Duchovny.
Okay.
There was in the original X-Files series.
Yes.
There was one episode where he was in the pool and he had on a little red Speedo.
Yep.
And he's doing a new series now, and they asked him. They said, "Would you mind, getting in the red Speedo again?" And he did. And he did, and everybody is living for it. He's obviously
he's
older
aged.
now.
Again, gravity always takes its toll.
Because now what? It's like 30 years.
Yeah.
Almost.
I want to say almost 30 years. I think X-Files started in 96, 97?
Sometime around then.
I think 96 or 97.
Yeah. And also one of my favorite shows. I love
Really?
the X-Files. I was addicted to it.
Well, you also like Star Trek, so you enjoy space travel.
I love that stuff. Yes. Another show from that era, like Twin Peaks.
Okay, very
culty. When that first came out, I mean, I would actually host like little watch parties, and we would have cherry pie.
Of course you would.
Of course I did. Of course I did. And these people didn't realize I was gay. What was wrong with them? But I digress.
I mean, Kevin MacLachlan. Is it Kyle MacLachlan?
Kyle MacLachlan. Yes.
He's a beautiful man.
Yes. And he was in, what was the name of that movie that he was in? Blue Velvet.
Yes.
Isabella Rossellini.
With Isabella Rossellini.
See, I brought everything
full circle.
I brought everything back full circle. Kudos to me.
Kudos to you. You get the gold star.
I always do. You know why? Because I bought the gold star. You want to always get the gold star?
Buy it.
The gold star.
Buy the gold star.
You want a crown or a tiara?
Buy it for yourself.
Buy it for yourself. There you go. But just wanted to point that out that because David Duchovny, as an older guy, still getting into the red Speedo.
I mean, hey, for the longest time, Burt Reynolds was a sex symbol for a while.
Yeah,
I think he was him, Sean Connery. Not Pete.
My God, it's Mr. Burt Reynolds.
Tom Selleck.
Oh, Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck is another. I mean, even in the new show, he is gorgeous.
I haven't seen it.
I think it's Blue Bloods.
Yeah,
but he is still very handsome. Still very handsome. I'm trying to think of other older, mature actors.
I can tell you one. Because the show is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
The original CSI. They're bringing it back as CSI Vegas.
Yeah.
And William Peterson, who plays Gil Grissom, very
he's still very distinguished,
older guy.
So it's very interesting to see. Again, 50-year-olds in 1973 compared to 50-year-olds today.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. Historically, especially in films, older men are always considered distinguished, venerable. Whereas a woman the same age has not traditionally been.
I mean, comparing Bette Davis in All About Eve to who was an actor during that time? Again, not Cary Grant, because Cary Grant was still very young in the 1950s. But just looking at the dynamic and the shift between what is conventionally attractive for a woman of a certain age and what is conventionally attractive for a man of a certain age, very polarizing.
Yeah.
Polarizing. Yeah. And there's definitely been a shift.
Yeah.
To today's standards. Yeah. I think it's because there's still pressures put on older people to look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely still pressures put on older people to look a certain way. But I would no longer consider someone in their 50s to be old.
Right.
I would not consider someone in their 60s to be old. 70s, 80s, getting there. Even Rita Moreno in her 80s still looks gorgeous.
Yeah. And
still is very active and very vital, despite the age that she is.
Right.
And I mean, Betty White is what? She's going to be 100 next year.
Yeah.
100 next year. And she's still drinking the blood of virgins.
Yeah. Who would have known? Who would have guessed?
Alexis.
Yes. But we digress. So, Maude, she wants to have it out.
Yes, she finally wants to have that discussion I think she's had it.
She's sick of him singing the spinning wheel song.
Yep. She even sings it when they're in the bedroom arguing.
Yes. She wants him to stop torturing himself.
Yes. I actually.
And she points out to him that, getting back to what we were just talking about, that she's saying that he looks better to her at middle age than he did when he was in his 20s and 30s.
And he stops and says, middle-aged people always look better to middle-aged people.
Yes.
It's what stops them from killing themselves.
Yes. And this is probably one of the funniest scenes in the episode.
I agree. I'm trying to remember what it was that Maude had said to Walter that triggered her to say, God will get you for this one.
Yes. She's talking about, how he looks better to her, and that she's saying and don't I look better to you?
Yeah, I look better.
So am I, Walter. Yes. And then he's not saying anything. He's like, I said, so am I,
Walter.
And he's still not saying anything.
And then she stops and just infamously says, God will get you for this, Walter.
Right.
And,
that scene actually reminded me of, do you remember, it's one of the very early Golden Girls scenes?
Yeah.
Where Rose loses her job.
Yes.
And Dorothy's saying the thing
sure,
about...
you're 5 years older, so am I, so is Blanche. Yeah, a little thicker around the middle, so is Blanche.
No, she doesn't say so
she doesn't say so am I,
she just says so is Blanche.
No! Hold on. You are feeling sorry for yourself. Sure, you're 5 years older, so am I, so is Blanche. All right, you have a few more wrinkles, so do I, so is Blanche. Oh, you're a little thicker around the middle, so is Blanche. I literally had to hold my head and go back in time.
I know, but
that was Job Hunting.
Yes.
Job Hunting in season 1, I think.
Yeah.
I watched that series too much.
That's one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, because it's a great episode.
And that little back and forth between Walter and Maude very much reminded me of that scene from Golden Girls.
Very similar.
That's when Arthur comes in.
Yeah, Arthur comes in because he's late for... I don't know if he showed up to the party or not, but he showed up because he wanted to be supportive to his friend.
Yeah, and actually, Arthur...
This was very
empathetic.
Very empathetic.
Which was very unusual.
Very out of character. Very out of character. But I mean, it's the hypocrisy that the writers and that normally always want to try and inject into their shows. Like, yes, Walter is a right-wing conservative Republican, just... Arthur.
Yes.
Arthur. I said Walter.
You said Walter.
I
know. We always do that.
We always do that.
You don't do what I do.
Exactly.
But it's Arthur who's the
right-wing conservative. Right-wing conservative Republican. But he's still human.
Yes.
He's still a human capable of feeling human emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in this instance, Maude is, again, bereft, not sure what to do. And Arthur says, it's not so much that you don't love Walter. It's how you physically love Walter.
Right. And we should point out, at this point, Walter had said that he had to get away.
Yes.
And he went
upstairs to pack because he needs to be away from everybody.
Yes. So Maude is asking Arthur for help.
Yes.
And Arthur tells her that Walter is afraid. He needs love, and he's not talking about spiritual love
or emotional love. He's talking about physical
relationship. And
what did Maude say? They haven't touched each other.
She says if there was a camera at the foot of the bed and Walt Disney was filming, he could show that unedited to the Mouseketeers. And Arthur, and now this was very
altruistic.
Yes, but also was quite liberal for the time. He brings up Masters and Johnson.
Yes.
Who were, sex researchers and became quite
popular during the 70s.
And quite well known in the 70s for all their, research into
Did they
sexuality.
write the Book of Sex?
I think so, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they wrote the Book of Sex.
Yes.
Or the Joys of Sex.
The
Joys of Sex.
Yes. And, and he starts to tell her, well, maybe just start with touching.
Yeah. Physical touch.
Hugging, caressing, it doesn't have to be...
If I tell you, and this might be TMI. But with me and my partner, there's a lot of physical touching. There's a lot of holding. There's a lot of massaging. Like, I will, if ever, we're close with one another, I will hold his face and massage his cheeks. Mm-hmm. And again, very sensual, very, just very romantic without it being overtly sexual.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's necessary in most relationships.
Oh, sure.
And it's just interesting to see that pointed out in a show during the 70s when sex was just becoming more and more in vogue.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
So Arthur is now, Maude is holding Arthur's hand.
Yes.
And again, very jovial. Arthur's like, you broke down my defenses.
Yeah.
And he's kissing Maude's hand, kissing her cheek, thank you.
Yes.
And he's just all very bubbly and effervescent all of a sudden.
Very un-Arthur.
Very out of character.
Yes.
So Maude is like, thank you. But
as far as the writing of the characters, I mean, really, Arthur was probably the only character that they could have used.
Yeah, they couldn't have used Carol. They couldn't have used
Yeah,
Florida.
they couldn't. Florida or Carol wouldn't have worked.
Or they couldn't even use Vivian.
Yeah, no. Well, she'd hardly been on it at this point. But
so it made sense for them to use Arthur in that way.
Yeah, even though it was kind of out of character.
Yep, just a little bit.
Yes. So Maude goes up to the bedroom.
Walter
is packing.
Walter is packing.
Yes, and she says, "I want to touch you." And he's like, "I don't want you to.
No touching. No touching.
Touch my skin." And she says, "I'll touch your teeth."
I'll touch your teeth.
Yes.
And then Walter goes into the bathroom.
And then she's like, he runs out and he's like, "I definitely don't want you touching me there." Which we all, I think, can
gather where Maude was
touching. And so then, she starts packing.
Yes, she starts packing because, she sees Walter packing and like, fine, if you're leaving, so am I.
If you're going to leave, so
am I. If you're leaving, so am I.
You're going to pack, I'm going to pack. She says she's gonna have fun. And she's pointing out to him that, you know what, you're not just 50, you're 50 and boring. You're 50 in 3 days.
She also mentions that, like, I am sorry, Walter, that at 50 you're finally facing your own mortality.
Right. Excuse me.
Parched?
I guess. But Walter, he does get quite perturbed.
He gets so perturbed and so irate.
When Maude grabs the negligee. Yes.
And Walter goes, well, where are you going with that negligee?
Yeah.
Maude says, might be cold where I'm going.
Yes.
Because Walter had bought Maude that negligee for a romantic
special
occasion.
That's right.
And again, Maude has done that on a few occasions where she'll like show something very, very sexy and be like, I'm taking this to someplace you're not going.
Right.
It's only to go. Just to goad Walter.
By the way, that's what I say when I drive past Tom's house. And I've gotten takeout from the empanada place that he loves. I drive past and I go,
Oh, hell's bells.
Oh, my Lord.
So, Maude is packing, and again, she's just irate. She's had it. Like, she even goes, there's an old spinning wheel through grit teeth.
Yes.
And they're, Walter is all packed up. Maude is then all packed up. And Maude says, take my suitcase downstairs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And Walter goes, I'm not taking your suitcase downstairs. Why should I take your suitcase downstairs? And they get into this, battle of wits.
Right.
Ending in Walter grabbing the suitcase and throwing it out the window.
And the glass breaks and everything.
And for the longest time, I thought that there was no glass. I thought it was just shot through the window and there was no sound effect. There was sound effect. There was sound effect put over it, but there's actual glass there.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine how many takes that actually took to do.
Yeah, that's the thing, because once you break the glass, they had to do it more than once. I'm gathering that they probably rehearsed it quite a few times.
They had to have. And then they put the glass up, and then that was what led them to do that.
And it was probably like, you got to get this. You got to
get it right once. You only got once.
We only got one pane of glass.
So Walter throws the suitcase out the window. Maude says, "Well, one good turn deserves another," and throws his suitcase out the window.
Right.
And the opposite window.
Yes, the other on the other side of the bed.
So just glass breaking everywhere. They're very romantic.
And then she was going to throw his watch out the window, I guess.
I don't know the significance of the watch, but apparently it was significant enough for Walter to just be, not my watch.
Right.
And he grabs Maude's wrist and is Maude is trying to fight him off. Mm-hmm. And just the two of them are in this very awkward physical embrace.
They're locked in an embrace.
And, right after Walter says, not my watch, there's a pause, and then they immediately embrace in this very romantic, passionate hug.
Now, which I don't remember. One of them points out that they're touching.
Maude pointed it out. Maude said, Walter, we're touching.
We're touching. And,
actually, Walter says, if I live 1,000 years, I'll never be able to understand you.
Right.
And
they sort of like that's when she says that there is something for you to seek.
Yeah, there is still something for you to seek.
Like, for both of them to like keep finding out more about each other. Because, I think Maude says something about like that she wants to sort of spend the rest of her life finding, out more about him.
It was honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it was a very touching scene between the two of them.
Yes.
And I'm trying to remember, because I think right after Walter said, "If I live 1,000 years, I'll never be able to understand you." Maude says, "Do you want to understand me?"
Right.
And I can't for the life of me remember what she says at that point.
I don't remember.
But again, it was a very touching scene, and they end up finally hugging and holding each other.
Walter tells her the riddle. There was the riddle.
The riddle that Floyd told him.
That Floyd had told him.
Yes.
What has one eye?
One eye sticks out its tongue,
and
you can make love
and
to.
Wants to and wants to make love or something.
And wants to make love all the time.
Yeah, something like that. And Maude
says, "I know the answer."
I know the answer.
She covers her eye and sticks out her tongue.
Right, and so.
Again, very touching, very silly.
And I think she then says happy birthday, Walter. I think that's how
That's how that scene ends.
That's how that scene ends. So it was quite touching.
Very touching. Very touching. Despite the fact that, the luggage is now on the front lawn.
Yeah, really. What the heck must the Findley's neighbors
be
thinking of them? Those damn Findleys. And now they're throwing their suitcases out the window.
Yeah. Lots of arguing. I mean, that's a joke that's been made a number of times. I think there was one moment where Arthur was like, "Oh, I heard you guys screaming, so I figured you were spending a quiet evening at home."
Yeah, right.
So
that's what you would think, I'm sure.
So it happens pretty often.
Yeah, because I'm sure the neighbors are like, "Oh, the Findleys are at it again."
Mm-hmm. So we now come to the epilogue.
And Maude and Walter are in bed.
Yep.
And
this was too funny. It was so deliciously funny.
Yes.
Where Maude is now turning to Walter, saying, "Walter, you're 50 years old. Do you know what that means? And I'm 47.
And I'm 47.
Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
In 3 years, you'll be 53 years old, and I'll be 44.
And that's how the episode.
And that's how the episode ends.
Yes.
Honestly, it really, when I first watched the episode many, many years ago,
many moons,
I thought it was very morbid. I thought it was very morose. I was not. It was not one of my favorite episodes. Mm-hmm. But as I've gotten older, and I watch it with newer eyes and a newer mind, it's honestly one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, it was very fun
because it was very well written. It was it was a very poignant episode without being
maudlin.
Without being maudlin, if you'll excuse the pun. Because, up until that point, every single episode was very politically motivated.
Yes.
This was not a politically motivated episode.
No.
I mean, granted, yes, when you incorporate the jokes made by Florida to Maude and the Old Man River, the minstrel aspect of the show, it was very much something that affects everybody in very different ways.
Well, everyone can relate to aging because everyone ages.
Everyone ages.
Everyone ages.
Unless you're Jocelyn Wildenstein.
Yes.
And then, that's an awful lot of plastic surgery.
Yes.
But I don't think there's a part of her that has... I mean, there are parts of her that have aged to about maybe 10, 15 years. But yeah, this was, honestly, it was a very mature episode, a very mature topic.
Yes.
And, I'm glad you were with us for this episode.
Yes, for taking a stroll
with us.
Down memory lane.
But I never asked you, what did you do when you turned 50?
Nothing really. I mean, we had a little party.
Okay.
That was it. I just, it never hit me like, 50, middle age, or anything like that. It just, I don't know, just didn't.
Yeah. Honestly, it was the same thing for my parents. When they turned 50, it was just, to them it was another day.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like that when I turn 50. I want to have at least something a little grandiose.
Uh-huh.
Just not so much to point it out, just be like, hey, I'm half a century old.
We should go skydiving.
In Golden Girls Trend.
Yes, in Golden Girls Trend. Yes. Could you imagine?
No, I really can't.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, that's funny. We'd have to secure those wings down with all the glue.
Yeah.
Have to E6000 the glue to the wing to our heads.
Exactly. Or E6000 into the helmet. I don't know.
E6000 into the helmet. Something of that effect.
Oh my Lord.
That's funny. If you're still around, we can do that.
If I'm still around.
Well, no. When I'm 50, you'll be what? 76?
Yeah.
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 That sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'll still be around.
I'll still be around.
You'll still be here.
Yes.
And you'll still be wearing the same
Nothing
wig.
can kill me.
No.
Except maybe corn.
Corn and just the right amount of alcohol.
Exactly.
Oh, merciful heavens. Well, thank you for joining us on another marvelously hilarious episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
Mm-hmm.
If you would like to follow us, you can everywhere.
Everywhere.
You can follow us on Instagram at Findley's Friendly Appliances. You can follow us on YouTube at God'll Get You for That, Walter. You can email us comments, kitschy things you want us to discuss on the show, things that you find poignant at Findley's Friendly Appliances at gmail.com. If you would like to follow me, you can. Oh wait, no, you can find us on Pandora and Spotify and Apple and iHeartRadio,
Apple Podcasts,
Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts,
all the podcasts.
Literally, just look up "God'll Get You for That, Walter." You'll find
us.
If you would like to follow me, you can at that Tomcat on all forms of social media. That is my nom de guerre. That is my name for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would like to follow this gorgeous hunk of woman, you can at
ToniHomeperm.com. And of course, that's
Tony with an I.
And of course, usually on Facebook too, Instagram.
Yes,
all
Facebook
those
and
things.
Instagram. Tony
I don't really tweet.
I'm trying.
Are you trying to tweet?
Trying to tweet a little bit more. It never did anything for me it never did anything for me during its inception. But now it's like, with the voiceover, it behooves me.
The only thing I really like about Twitter is that I'm friends with adult
the porn
stars.
You could say it. You're friends with porn stars.
I'm friends with porn stars on Twitter.
And you get to see all of their bits and pieces.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Just a friendly reminder to those. We support sex workers in this house. So what's happening with OnlyFans is an absolute travesty. Yes. Unfortunately, there are no episodes that deal heavily on Maude with sex workers, but here at God'll Get You for That, Walter, we stand sex workers in this house.
Cool.
Cool beans. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again, or you'll hear us again, on another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
Yes, they will.
Bye-bye, guys.
Good night.